It is a huge honor to see the most gorgeous smiling face in dentistry, my buddy Neil Pande from Kathmandu, Nepal. And my
Right.
God, you are just an amazing man. But did you know there's a big song in America back when I was little, Kathmandu?
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard that song? I forgot. Do you remember who sings that?
Bob Seger.
Bob Seger,
Yeah.
Kathmandu. That was the first
Yeah.
time I'd ever heard of that word. And it was probably 10 before I realized it was a real city. And you are just amazing. And I want to start with I am just profoundly sorry about your natural disaster. Well, it was an earthquake of what, 7.8?
7.9. So the first one.
7.9.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
2 weeks later, it was a 7.4.
7.3. 7.3. Yeah.
So explain to listeners around the world. Probably 5,000 dentists are going to listen to this. They listen to this on from every country on earth, every episode. Tell them about Kathmandu. First start with tell them about Nepal and Kathmandu and why this is an earthquake prone region. Because like I'm in Arizona and I grew up in Kansas. We had in Kansas we had tornadoes. That was our natural disaster, but the ground never
Yeah.
moved,
Yeah.
and we never had
Yeah.
tidal waves or anything. But why does the ground move in Nepal?
Well, Howard, as you know, Nepal is between the two giants like India and China. Basically, they say millions of years ago, the Indian plate came in and came onto China, and whatever is being made is Nepal. So Nepal is in that line where the two giants meet, and that's why I mean they are supposed to be like a millimeter or so moving every year, but this time it was we've actually moved 1.5 meters towards the north. So we've like really gone inside the plates.
So
Plates have gone in.
Is India going under China or is China going under India? Which one's going up?
India is going under China.
India's going under China, and that's also
Yeah.
the highest mountain in the world is in your backyard.
Yeah, that's right. Mount Everest. Yeah, that's what you wanted to do once upon a time, right?
Well, there's the seven summits, the highest mountain in all seven continents. I started with the middle one, and I did Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. That was 19,000 feet. So the three above that will be South America, then North America, and then if those
Yeah.
go well, the big one would be Everest. But is
Everest.
and we're sorry before we get to dentistry, I don't want to get talking points. How was the disaster? How was the recovery? What fundraising mechanisms? You know, the best fundraising mechanism I've seen is when the TVs were advertising. Well, if you pick up your cell phone right now and dial this 5-digit number, you'll automatically make them a $10 or $20 contribution, whatever it is. And those campaigns raise gazillions of dollars because it's just so easy to pick up your cell phone and put in a 5-digit number. How can a dentist help with these relief organizations?
Um, well, first of all, like how it hit us was like I was in a class. We're doing some orthodontic training in a like practice above my practice. There's a class like a lecture hall, and suddenly I was just outside, and it was like a wave coming in. It was like rafting on a ground, and trying to hold on to something to hold yourself. And after that, well, the amazing that's the beauty of like a lot of people like you, Howard, love this country so much because you've seen it, you've been here, you've like seen how hard people get through, but they're always smiling and happy about life. And you guys have been great helping. And all the international media poured in, the major agencies poured in, and then they started doing things on the ground. Well, regarding the funds that happened, usually the fund was given to these big organizations. One thing I have to say, Howard, is whenever you give to big organizations, there's a big overhead as well. So if you give, let's say, $100, like around $60 to $70 goes in their, overhead, and 30% goes to the real victim if it goes there. So you have to be very careful where you give. That's one thing. And I feel, in today's need is like more about giving skills, giving know-how rather than money itself. Money can, like, Earthquake, what I've realized, it doesn't kill people. Earthquake just shakes the ground. What kills is the man-made structures. And if you look at all those buildings that have gone down in Kathmandu, actually, Howard, frankly speaking, it's not as bad as the media shows it. The bad part is outside Kathmandu, in the villages where they had these mud houses with stone mud houses. Those are the things that have gone down, and they're already in the rebuilding phase. But I feel we gotta make them dependent, like not dependent, independent, empower them, teach them how to do it, rather than just give them the money and make the house. That makes them dependent, like what happened in Haiti. Still, they're like not empowered yet. Still dependent on all the aids that are coming in. So my feeling has been, I mean, it's about giving the skills, know-how, and of course, I mean, the latest technology so that they can move on with their lives.
You know, Neil, you're one of the most interesting dentists I've ever met in my life. I'm serious. There's 2 million dentists around the world, and meeting you is amazing. And when I flew 15 hours all the way back from Kathmandu to America, I was thinking a couple things. Buddha was born in your backyard.
That's true,
And
yeah.
the other thing I was thinking is I almost wanted to write a book, and I almost wanted to call it the giggle factor. The one thing I notice is that when you're in these super rich, advanced countries, you know, whether it be the United States, Germany, Korea, Japan, whatever, people are just wrapped so tight, and you just never see them giggle. And then when you go to a place like Kathmandu, that's technically, well, they're poor, and I'm like, I never saw so many people laughing and giggling, and the girls were in these beautiful, bright purples and oranges. I mean, I posted a lot of pictures of my on Dental Town, my trip to Nepal, and I mean, I just saw more happiness and giggling. I was just when I climbed Kilimanjaro, I was in Tanzania. My God, I often wondered if there was anything that would not make an African laugh. I mean, these people lived in huts, and they had no
Yeah.
electricity. Where in some of the areas I was, no electricity, no running water, no sewage, and all it was is and everyone's playing and everyone's smiling. And I thought to myself, man, the price people pay and then I look at America, which is, you know, technically or supposedly the richest country in the world, even though on some economic measurements, China passed it this year. I think the experts at the IMF are saying that the American economy was 17 trillion, 400 billion, and the Chinese economy was 17 trillion, 600 billion. But they have a billion more people than the United States, so you would expect that's probably right. But it just seems like the happiest people in America are the ones I would say are the most Nepalese or kids in grammar school and high school because they don't have a lover, they're not married, they don't have a career, they don't have a job, and they're still playing and make believing and going in the backyard. I mean, it was still amazing sometimes, you know, to go watch kids still make believing in the backyard. And you're thinking, dude, that dude's 14 years old and he's still in this make believe playing world. And then they do everything society tells them to, and they go to school and they become a dentist, they get married, and they dump out a bunch of kids, and they think they're doing everything right. And then all of a sudden, then they got migraine headaches. They're grinding TMJ their teeth. Their lower back's always going out. And they're at the chiropractor. They have irritable bowel syndrome, and every time they turn around, they have a giant in their heart. And it doesn't seem to go away until they unwind all that, and their career's gone. The kids moved out. They're finally retired, and then it's almost like they lost their whole life doing what they were supposed to do. So I wanted you to address this. Dentistry in the States, 18% of dentists during their career will need outpatient or inpatient substance abuse issues. They've had a high suicide rate, probably 10 years out of the last 30 that I've been in it. They say, well, it's a high stress job. And I don't want to really give credence to that because look at what the high stress would be if you were a soldier in war or Afghanistan or a police officer getting shot at or a fireman in a house on fire. But if someone said to me, who's the most spiritual dentist you know? And I'm a big fan of your Facebook post. I'd say, well, damn, it's Neil. I mean, and if you took the second through 10 and added them up, they'd still be less spiritual You. So was Buddha a big impact on that? Explain. Buddha was born in your backyard. Explain my perceptions of the giggle factor, and why are you always smiling? Why are you always so damn happy?
Well, I don't know. I think I was born smiling. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, one thing I've realized over the years is like, I've also gone through that stressful life and all the wants and desires and the world of materialism where nothing, I mean, it doesn't seem to end. You want, this much and that, and that guy has that. There's an ad there. You want that another car, another house, bigger. That never ends. And it's the same here as well. But I mean, well, I think Buddha has been a big influence in my life. I got to know Buddha not through, the natural way, which is like through the gurus and all that. Buddha basically talked about everybody can be like me. Everybody is God. You are God within yourself. And try to do the things right, and you are God yourself. And what I've done over the years is like, basically limit my wants, my desires. It's not that I have forced myself into limiting those things. Just being happy with everything we do. A sip of water, we just sip, and we sip with full wholeheartedly. And that gives you satisfaction. So everything you do, every breath you take, every beat of your heart, you take it from the deep within, and I think that's what has helped me, and that's exactly what Buddha tried to say. It was all about awareness within ourselves, awareness of impermanence, and trying to live that life, every second of it, to the fullest. And that's something I've been trying to do, and well, lot more to do there.
I apologize for my ignorance on this because the United States, everybody's pretty familiar with Judaism, Christianity, Islam, but the Eastern religions we don't hear as much about. But was Confucius? I mean, was Buddha's father a Hindu? Was he a
I
was
think, yeah,
Buddhist?
I think he was a, Hinduism, basically what I feel about Hinduism is it's not a religion, it's a way of life. If you look at gods in Hindu, they are like millions and billions of gods that are of different uh, variety of gods. And I feel in Hinduism, it was everybody was God. Every human being, everybody was God at that time. But Hinduism was very confused at that time when Buddha was born. And Buddha's
And
father was a
what year was that? 500 or
2,500 years ago.
so 500 BC. Okay.
Yeah, 500 BC. And he was a king, and he was a son of a king, and he never saw anything bad. He was protected from all that is bad. And suddenly one day he sees people dying and people having problems, and he realizes, oh my God, this is something serious. And that's where he goes in to find out what life is all about. And he comes back with messages like, we are God ourselves, or our awareness, our sense of impermanence. That's what keeps us godly, and doing good things in everyday life, I guess. That's what his message was.
Now, one of the things I learned, and where was Buddha born in Nepal?
It was towards the, from here, from Kathmandu, it's around the western side of Kathmandu,
Well,
towards the Indian border. It's a place called Kapil Bastu.
now, and was is Hinduism the first religion? I mean, I've heard some people say Judaism was the first, and when I was in India, they said Hinduism was first. Do you know which one dates back the earliest?
No idea. I'm like totally clueless on
Oh,
that.
okay. So then, what advice would you give to? So right now, there's this dentist driving to work, and
Okay.
he's in a lot of debt. He's got $250,000 student loans. He bought a practice for 500,000. His wife Muffy bought a house for 100,000. She stays home and has 3 kids, 4 kids. She's burning up 5, 6, 7,000 a month. And the economy, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. Maybe they're in a small town and the main factory's gone, and he's just grinding his teeth with a migraine, wearing a night guard with an irritable bowel and his lower back's going out. What advice would you give that dentist?
Well, I mean, first of all, if he's already taken a loan, I mean, that's a different thing. He's got to work it out somehow. But at the same time, be within himself. I mean, do a bit of, the self-reflection, just trying to, you know, find out peace within himself where he finds. But if he's a new dentist, he's planning to do that. I mean, one should, I feel, know a limit. I mean, if you are just putting everything in and you want to do everything here, like what others are doing, the way you were being conditioned to do it from dental schools to from the schools to like to the world of materialism and just getting you in that shackles, just tying you in that shackles. It's time that you realize that, hey, this is not the, if you are of that sort, and try to figure out uh, what's my limit, and I'll go step by step. If you go step by step, I'm sure, we all have gone through that. I mean, I look at myself. I started with one dental chair, then I slowly got into, it's all about patience at the end of the day. Once they have trust in you, they do not have any, I mean, that trust is just amazing. The between dentist and the patient, that trust. And you go as you go, not like everything you put in a basket at one time and try to do everything, and then you're unhappy and you're grinding and you're worried about all your loans, and you know somehow it doesn't work. Then you are grabbed by the world of that materialism, and it just doesn't get you out until you are 50 or something, and then your life is already gone. The beautiful part of your life, the present, is gone. If the present is gone, what's there in future? We don't know. I mean, it's actually we may not, we do not know what's there in future for any one of us.
Neil, I want to ask you I want to ask you some of the questions that I found most stunning when I was in your amazingly beautiful, gorgeous country. In the United States, Coca-Cola was invented in like 1890, and Pepsi was 12 years behind us. We've had a century of Coca-Cola. But we were having dinner at that restaurant. There were about 8 dentists, and there was an older dentist, and he made a statement that he practiced dentistry before soda drinks were so common in Nepal and now. And in his 1 unit career, he has seen disease missing and filled teeth skyrocket that he's associating with soda. Whereas an American, they couldn't see that difference because this dates back to their great grandparents. So have you now I take it you're what are you? I'm 52. What are you, 40?
42, 43.
43, so I'm 10 years older than you. Have you seen in your career, have you seen pediatric decay or decay in general go up in Nepal? Do you think there's dietary changes in your country?
Definitely, Howard. I mean, the way we're seeing, we used to see the main problem in urban Nepal. I would say it was almost the same. But if we are really seeing rural, where they did not have access to all these sweets or any soda and all that, and the main problem was periodontal disease at that time. But now we are seeing kids, small kids, like just 4 years old, 5 years old, with complete, rampant caries, abscess, name it, and there is no care. I mean, to tell you frankly, there is no care available there. So they just go on as they have, they just go on with that. And yes, I feel, I mean, sodas are the. I was in a village like just 3 days ago, doing some relief work, and I was talking to these mothers. Hey, what do you give your kid for like to school? What do you send them snacks? And she was like biscuits and all the instant noodles and all that. I said, you always talk about chocolates and all that. Do you realize there's so much sugar in them? And she was like, wow, And I said, you guys, I mean, later on you'll realize you're giving them poison. And would you like to give your child a poison? And she's like, oh, she's really taken back. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. There is a study where in a mountain trail around Mount Everest region, where the kids never used to have any cavities. Their diet was very healthy, natural food. Howard, what I tell the parents? Give your kids live food that are alive, and that'll make them alive. Give them dead food, like packed food. I call them dead food. and you don't even know who made them, how it was made, and all sugar, all the good taste that is in there, and they get used to it, and then they're dead. I mean, dead food gets us nearer to death, and that's a pretty strong statement, but it works. In a village scenario, we gotta give them that kind of message. I mean, and that's what I try to do in the and okay. This coming back to the trail, and after the tour, like the trekkers started coming in, and they started bringing in chocolates and all that, and giving it to the kids, and there was rampant decay all over the village, and this is documented stuff. And now we try to tell trekkers and everybody, do not take chocolates and all that. If you want to give something, give pencil, books, whatever, but do not take these chocolates and all that. Do not encourage that, because once they get into the habit, they don't eat their normal food after that. I mean, human behavior.
Yeah, and you also see that in houses with that raise kids with substance abuse. Every time there's a celebration, the parents got to break out alcohol. I mean, why do you need alcohol because it's someone's birthday? It's like every time we're supposed to say yay, we're supposed to open a Budweiser, and it's like and the same thing with a kid. When you did something good, why do you associate that with you have to eat something? You're not a dog. You give a dog treat after it does a trick, and not your kid. But I got to tell you, probably the greatest education I got was not 9 years of college, and I don't think it might be 1,000 books I've read, but where I've gained the most knowledge is just going around the world and visiting countries, because you don't know what your biases are until you get there. Like I always thought India. I thought because they were Hindu, they didn't eat meat, they were more likely to be vegan and vegetarian, that these would be the most unbelievably healthy people in the world. And my God, they eat more sweets. So I don't want to offend any of my Indian listeners, but I've never been to a country. You walk into a dentist's house, immediately they're out with a tray of sweets and cakes and cookies. And every dental office I walked into, I was treated with more sweets in India. Yeah. So yeah, it's the added sugar. It's not natural sugar in a banana or an orange or anything. It's the added sugar in sweets that's really making a change. And the other stereotype that I thought was the funniest one is, when you're born and raised in America, you just hear how evil socialized medicine is and socialized countries. And I mean, they almost make you think that the word socialism should come with a swastika. And then you go visit these countries like Denmark and Sweden and Norway and Finland, who were like this was supposed to be the bottom of the barrel, socialist countries. And my God, those are the greatest societies, minus the weather, that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it was just lowest crime rate, highest education, highest health. And I'm like, oh, and it's a socialist country. Another an excellent teaching point for you, and I want to ask how you got it, is when we talk about business, there's different business strategies. There's you could be the low cost provider, like Walmart, Costco, Southwest Airlines. You can do a target market, like you're just a cosmetic dentist or this or that. But the big one is usually price segmentation, market differentiation, differentiate yourself in the market. And I found it in Kathmandu. There are offices like yours with digital x-rays and the high end, and then there were dentists that they're treating the poor with hardly any technology. How did you differentiate yourself? Did you specifically try to say, I want to be a high-tech dentist, high-end, or because the many dental offices we went to, I mean, yours was like the Taj Mahal, and there were other ones that would just be doing basic dentistry. Would you agree with that?
Well, Howard,
especially some of the dental offices where the streets were only like maybe a meter, 2 meters wide or something.
Yeah. I think, Howard, my basically principle of practice has been based on your teaching. I mean, I've been with Dental Town for a long time, somewhere in early 2000, and that's when I started my practice. And when whenever Dental Town used to arrive at Kathmandu, and going through that, and those are the things. I mean, I always wanted to say, hey, why should we downgrade ourselves? Actually, if you look at it, dentistry doesn't cost too much. I mean, am I right? I mean, let's say a digital X-ray, for example. I got it in 2006. It costed me something like a current, like $5,000 or something. The digital X-ray, and that has given me so much advantage over the years. I have not had to use films, my processors, my time is saved, and it's been now like 2006 to now 9 years, and that guy is working beautifully. And I'm of course thinking of phosphoplates now and all that. You are the inspiration, Howard. Actually, I mean, you've actually, I mean, staying there at in Phoenix, you may think. You're just impacting few, but you have impacted a lot of dentists who are forward thinking in the world. And thank you for that. I mean, that's amazing. We, the access to knowing what's available there and just trying to get in there. That's thank you. You are the crux of all that.
Well, thank you. All I did was just threw the dental boat in the internet. I mean, when I saw that internet coming out, I said, "This is the way I can connect to guys like you at the speed of light." I just thought that was going to be so cool, and it turned out to be very, very cool. So, what type of mix of dentistry do you find yourself doing? What interests you? I mean, do you place implants? I know you do endo. I mean, tell them your mix of dentistry.
Mine is more of endo. I mean, I've been doing endo for a long time. Yes, I do a bit of implant, but not like that too much of implant. When there's good bone and a straightforward case, I try to do that. When I have a little difficulty, then I work with my periodontist to do some of those work. And she's also just come back from like a lot of training in Atlanta and stuff like that. So we do have a mix of restorative.
With Atlanta, was that who'd she get training in Atlanta? Was that Goldstein, Garber, and Maurice, or?
I'm not too sure how it happened.
Okay.
She just told me, yeah. But anyway, and a lot of restoratives and most of restoration. And guess what, Howard? This has really been intriguing me all this while after the earthquake. Actually, I've been trying to link the earthquake with the teeth. I say whenever there is, our mouth is going through earthquake all the time. And wherever man-made structure, it does fail one time or the other, whereas the nature stays. And that's exactly what we've seen. A single tree hasn't fallen in this huge earthquakes we've gone through. And still today itself, there are 3 of them. A single tree hasn't fallen, but the houses have fallen, where the foundation was not right. So I had an architect friend the other day in the chair, and he just sent me SMS saying, "Hey, my crown has fallen." I was like, "Hey, how many Richter scale? Retrofitting? How's the soil down there?" And guess what? It's dentistry is so much with that physics, the architectural part of dentistry. If you do it well, if you treat the soil well, if you treat your pillars well, it will not fall. That's another thing I just wanted to share with you, that earthquake dentistry. Actually, I'm writing an article on that. I'll try to. It's so many things that have happened. The man-made structures going down. It's all related to exactly the same thing dentistry has gone through. So yeah, my basic thing is restorative dentistry. I don't do much of extractions. I have a friend who does that for me. Dentures and all that, I have another friend. So it's a group practice as such, and we do everything actually.
Yeah, and my best friend would be a pediatric dentist. That's the one. The one I want to refer the most. Adonai. But you know what? That's an interesting. That there's a big dental lesson. That's a profound observation. I've never heard that during the earthquake. A tree never fell, and that was because the tree can give, and they were building buildings that don't give. And you see that
of elasticity.
Yeah,
modulus of elasticity. Yeah.
And and that no, and we had to learn at dental school that there were basically 3 stresses. There were tensile, so if you take a wire, you can't pull it apart with tensile strength. But if you bend it back and forth, it'll tensile, it'll shear off. And then what is strong? Like porcelain, you could put a porcelain plate and have an elephant stand on it. So you say, well, that's really strong because if it stands on plastic Tupperware, it'll deform. But if I drop a porcelain plate, it'll shatter. And I drop Tupperware and it'll bounce. And I think, and that's why in my mouth, Neil, I have 7 inlays, onlays, and they're all gold. They're all high noble gold because I don't see because it gives and they actually the only dentistry I did 28 years ago that's still there and looks better now than when I first placed it is the gold work. I mean, at first when you put in that gold, it's like you're trying to smooth it out and you're trying to make the margin nice. But God, after 28 years, it looks like it was welded in there. I mean, the soft malleable gold and it's changing shape with the as the tooth dehydrates and so yeah, gold is amazing, and it's so frustrating that even when you go to like Asia and Nepal, where the girls wear gold, pins in their nose and their earrings, their jewelry and their fingers and everything. And then you try to tell an American, well, let's go with the gold tooth. Oh my God, are you crazy? And it's like, you have 5 gold things in your ear, a gold bar in your nose. You have your whole body's decorated gold. You have a gold thing hanging in your belly button, a gold chain on your ankle. And then I try to tell them, let's do a gold molar. And they just like I'm crazy. Is that the same in Nepal and India?
Yeah, same. Actually, they want to more of whenever you talk about gold, they're like, well, gold, But you know what I tell them? I tell them, what's the biggest ornament that is your own? Your own ornament are your teeth. You cannot get better ornament than that. And when you gotta cover that ornament when it goes wrong, you gotta find the best thing that does it. And gold is so much similar to your tooth structure. But usually they don't buy it.
Maybe we should try to bribe one of the biggest models out there, like maybe Madonna or Britney Spears, or the newest one in America is Caitlyn, which is Bruce Jenner made. Maybe we should get them to have all their fillings replaced with gold, and maybe if they're on television enough, young Americans think I want to have a gold crown like Caitlyn and Madonna and Britney Spears and all these people. But yeah, that's amazing. So Neil, you sit in the middle of some of the biggest empires in the world. I mean, you have China on the right. That's the biggest country in the world. India on the left. That's the second biggest country in the world. You've obviously have friends all over the world. Sitting in your position, how would you compare and contrast like European dentistry, Chinese, India, America versus lessons people could learn from each other? I'll give you some examples. Japan and Australia and New Zealand use more glass ionomer. Americans, you hardly can find glass ionomer. What have you noticed sitting in the middle? And the reason I asked you that question comes from the smartest endodontist I ever met in my life was Bambi Duro Oguntebi. And I asked him one day, I said, why are you so smart? And he said, well, I'm from Nigeria. And in America, you learn endo and you just drink your endo Kool-Aid. If you're in Germany, you drink their Kool-Aid. If you're in Japan, you drink your Kool-Aid. But in my country, Nigeria, we were taught, well, the Americans do this and the Europeans do this and Japan does this. And so we learned to compare. He thought we were given a recipe and said, just do this. Whereas he thought people like in Nigeria were taught, well, let me tell you how the exact same people with the exact same teeth eating the exact same sugar, how they fix it 3 different ways from around the world. What do you think is the best way? So you're sitting in Nepal. You got India on the right, China on the left. What have you seen international dentistry? I mean, what lessons do you think are going around that could be shared?
Well, I think over the years, I mean, seeing dentistry from all around, and especially I was trained in India, and then I was trained in UK after that. What I have found is there is too much of dentistry, and there is too little dentistry. And there is a dentistry which is in the mid path. And of course, non-invasive, invasive, all those things come forward. When American dentistry, but just don't mind, but majority we see there's a little too much dentistry there. And for a small, tooth, well, it's like an insurance, I call it, buying an insurance. I mean, for a tooth that is supposed to be okay, it can go in for a fracture or something, you will crown it right away. But whereas if you look at the other, like European dentistry, they may try to do something else before crowning it. At the same time, Australians do it in a midway. So I found actually, the Australian way, a kind of a mid path, not right or left, but the mid path. And that's what, personally, that's what I've been trying to practice in That's what I feel. And well, Chinese and Indian, I mean, Chinese dentistry, I really actually don't understand because they have their own system. They have their own thing. But yes, we do have seen a lot of Chinese dentistry being done. Japanese dentistry, so much of gold again. I mean, that is beautiful. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that they've great bonding strength and things like that. Uh, Indian dentistry is more influenced by, I think, American dentistry right now, and it's in a mix. I mean, some are amazing, but some of the work you see, you like, where is the thinking there? So, you know, sitting here in the middle, I mean, sometimes I look at it, Nepal being the center of everywhere. I feel the we should be a good judge at. Sometimes I see people saying, "Hey, you need a crown there right away," without judging the tooth properly. And we cannot play God. I feel without no understanding the forces and all that, and just taking in more in the monetary terms and just going with the crown, because that crown also does fail after some time. And of course, it all depends on the age as well. If he's an old guy, maybe that would be a good thing to do. But in a younger age, if you start doing too much of dentistry, it gets back to us. That's what I feel.
I have to agree with everything you said, and I think Germany gets has the best labs because number one, they educate them. I mean, America has a lab industry where almost there's 56 dental schools and probably 50 of them don't even have a program for laboratory tech. So how could we have good dentists and engineers and architects if you didn't have good schools in dentistry, engineering, art? So I think the United States could learn the most from Germany is like educate your lab people, or you're not going to have educated lab people. And the best lab techs I've ever seen in Canada, Germany, even in Hong Kong, were
Yeah.
all educated in Germany. And you're right. I do think the Australians are far more conservative. I would call a lot of the Americans are aggressive, and they're quick to stick the tooth in a pencil sharpener and make a crown. And I think a lot of that is from reimbursement because insurance will give them $1,000 for a crown, only $250 for a filling, and a lot of these filling materials, by the time you numb them up and for bonding and place a rubber dam and and try to get tight contacts and do the whole thing. I mean, some of these fillings would take you, half an hour to an hour, and the dentist is thinking, okay, I didn't even make a penny on that, so I'm not going to work that hard for an hour for free. I'm just going to stick it in a pencil sharpener and do a crown. I think that was a big driver of this CAD cam revolution because people basically, it wasn't a crown machine. It was like, I was going to do an MOD filling. Now I'm going to scan it, make it outside of the mouth and do an MOD inlay or onlay or partial crown and then bill 1,000. So I think a lot of that was economic driven. I also think that the Americans are the most, they're basically, the average dentist in America is basically an engineer. I mean, they're a civil engineer. They build houses, bridges, and crowns, and everything fails from biology, from decay. And I think the Australians get that the most, and they're always trying to do everything with bioactive glass on or something to try to fight it. And I always give the analogy that what dentists in America do is they build this amazing barn out of wood, and then they beg you to brush it and floss it and use a tongue scraper and Listerine and all this stuff. And when it fails from the termites eating it, it's always the patient's fault. And that's why I love titanium. That's why I love bioactive materials. I think, well, if we made all those barns out of aluminum, now the patient doesn't have to do a damn thing. And the termites come back and they can't eat the aluminum. So I think that's the most exciting thing about the internet is it's taken 220 diverse countries, put them all in one cell phone, and people through Facebook and Twitter are all talking to each other and realizing there's other great people with great minds and hearts doing something very different. And yeah, so that was neat. So I want you to talk about implants. I want you to specifically talk about implants because why would you say the Koreans have 20,000 dentists and 15,000 out of 20,000 placed an implant last month, surgically placed it, and in America 95% of the 120,000 general dentists have never placed a single implant in their life. And Brazilians, if Americans dentists place implants at the rate Koreans did, our implant market would grow 700%. Brazilians, you go down to Brazil, and just they don't think twice about placing an implant. And Americans still file down two teeth and do a bridge. Why do you think that is?
I guess, one thing is to, well, like, the suing culture. Like, there's a lot of suing happening. The lawyers, after all, I think that's one thing. And another, maybe, very hard to say, like maybe the training, as you said. And there's always a taboo. I mean, even now I see in like things like perio association websites and all that saying, implants should be placed by periodontists or something, or, so general dentists are usually kept aside. That's exactly what is happening. I mean, if you look at it, this part of the world also, somebody invented a department on implant, where nowhere in the world you have in a college where you don't do much implant. You create an implant department. So it's a lot of this specialist versus the GP, that kind of that thing that is what has killed implant. I feel after all, a good training. I mean, it's just like in college. I remember even to do a crown, they would not teach you well because they would want to sell their master's program, so that they sell them. Only the master's guys used to, and who suffered at the end is the patient, because the guy who's been trained out of dental school does not even know how to do a good crown, and now who suffers at the end is the patient. And that's why we see bad dentistry. I feel it's training, it's like that ego. I don't know why dentists at times say, I want to treat the world. We can't. We have a limitation of that 4, 5, 6 hours, whatever we work, and we can treat certain patients. And there are patients thankfully, it's not. I have a cardiac surgeon who's a friend. And he said, hey, we have just 5 to 6% of people have cardiac issues, and you have one heart. You guys have 97% of the population, one time or the other, suffers from some dental disease, and you have 32 of them. You guys have enough work. It's not that you have to fight among yourselves, trying to find out, hey, that's my cakes, and that's it. Come on. I mean, it's about education, educating the public in the right manner and doing the right work. And there is enough work. So implants being killed by this kind of thing, about lack of training, because, again, training guys want to sell their training. That's another thing. That's why they don't want to teach implant in college too well. And I think that's where the whole thing comes in. I hope you agree with me.
Well, yeah, you go around the world, and most problems could be summed up as money is the answer. What's the question? So I want to also ask you, in Kathmandu, I remember one time I was in Hong Kong, and a dentist told me that he read my book, 20 years ago, The Business of Dentistry. And after he read my book, he lost his dental license because he got all excited about marketing, and he did some marketing. He didn't realize in Hong Kong it was just completely illegal. And they saw his sign. He was doing everything I was doing, and he lost his license, didn't get it back for like 90 days. And I almost bankrupted the guy. What is marketing like in Nepal? I mean, when I was there, it looked like CocaCola was the master marketer. I don't think you could drive in Nepal for 5 minutes and not see a CocaCola sign. What is marketing like in Nepal for dentistry?
Well, when we were driving together, I love what you said. I mean, dentistry cannot market it. In Nepal, dentistry cannot be marketed. We cannot have advertisements. We cannot have any kind of, board saying, it's illegal, basically, just doing all those things. We're just supposed to be in the corner just waiting for a patient without telling them the good things that we should be telling. So you're right. Coca-Cola has no problem sending and all the health issues that it creates, but the health guys, even doctors, we cannot market, we cannot advertise. Well, some guys are doing it, but that's against the law. And people like us, we want to be with the mainstream, and it's sad that there's absolutely no marketing. So marketing could be, of course, uh, you know, awareness. The more schools, dental clinics are there, giving people that feel of, hey, I can have a better teeth like that. Better. How can I? There is absolutely, they don't allow any marketing in this part of the world, and that's sad. And we've taken that from India, and India has taken it from the United Kingdom. Well, now United Kingdom, I think it's allowed, but still, we are a long way to go. Yeah.
It'd be like getting in a boxing match. If you and me got in a boxing match, and I was Coca-Cola and you were dentistry, and you were handcuffed behind your back and blindfolded and gagged, how can dentistry fight decay when Coca-Cola is on every corner? How can diabetes, obesity, how can any of these people fight back when these guys just dominate the message that you drink water? And then when I was in Africa, the thing that I got really re-educated on is I didn't realize that the doctors were telling them to drink Coca-Cola because it was clean, and they said, you tell this kid to drink out of a creek or a well, and he may get cholera and die. And I want him drinking bottled soda, and I want him drinking Coca-Cola. So the trade-off is a cavity on every teeth and a big belly and obesity and all that, but he's not dead. He's not dead from cholera. Do you see those issues in Asia?
Yeah, I think over the days I've been seeing a lot of patients coming in with like all they drink is Coke all the time, but not that much, Howard. I mean, I guess it's the water. People are a little more aware, I feel, and they're getting more aware. One thing that has really worked in Nepal is these small health workers, NGOs working and trying to put in messages. And yeah, I mean, I do. It's not that I don't see that kind of patients, but not as much. I don't see much of that. Yeah.
I always get mad when I hear these arrogant Americans saying that we need to go to Mars. We need to go to Mars. It's like $1 trillion. And I always think, you know what? 7 billion people, 3 billion live off $3 a day and don't have running water, electricity, and sewage in their house, and we need to go to Mars because it's just not noble to say, well, why don't we just get clean chlorinated water and a toilet to 3 billion people? That just seems like a million times more noble than going and getting a red rock from Mars. I mean, we got moon rocks, and those are completely useless. And now we're going to spend $1 trillion to go get a Mars rock. I mean, yeah. I mean,
I'd like to add on that, Howard. I mean, basically, if you look at the earthquake itself, I mean, we haven't been able to map our own planet. I mean, we don't even know so much. I mean, these plates that the mapping has not been done. There's so many places in our planet of ours that's completely unexplored, and we're trying to get out and collect rocks. Yeah, I mean, just because that kind of fascinates us. I mean, ground reality check needs to be done, I think.
Yeah, what is it? What is it? I forgot how many men have stood on the moon. Is it 16 or 23, something like that? And no one has stood on the bottom of the ocean.
Well, I was named after Neil Armstrong, so that's yeah.
And my favorite business lesson for Neil Armstrong. You were named after Neil Armstrong. Name the second person who landed on the moon.
Buzz Aldrin, right?
But most people can't. And I think an interesting business lesson is that whenever you hear the best, at least half the time you can just substitute best for first and explain. Like you ask Americans, what's the best university in America? They say Harvard. Well, that was the first. You say, well, what's better, Pepsi or Coke? They'll say Coke. Well, that was 12 years before Pepsi. Americans still say, hand me a Kleenex, and they're just using a tissue made by a knockoff company. And being first is so huge, whether you're the first dentist in the area to do sleep medicine, laser dentistry, cosmetic, Botox, first to market is just, it's hard to beat first market. I want to ask you another thing. I'm sorry it's non-dental, but we just had one of our biggest media deals is called HBO, and they have this show that's been going for 20 years.
We watch it here, so yeah.
So
we get it here. Also.
Yeah, they had this show called Real Sports with Brian Gumbel or whatever, and they did a piece on Everest. And basically, the spin was that these Sherpas wouldn't be putting their life in danger if rich people weren't going there from Germany and Japan and the United States and dumping 100 grand because they wanted to get to the top, and that it was actually the rich people's fault that any Sherpa died on the way up to Everest. And I just wondered, that's kind of weird because people die on a motorcycle, people die snow skiing, everyone's gonna die. I mean, no one gets off Earth alive. But you live at in the country of Mount Everest. Do you think that industry is unethical? And the other thing they were talking about was the litter of these bottles and everything. And having gone and flown over Everest, I mean, it's not like Kilimanjaro where it's a single volcano on a prairie where the 19,000 feet starts at a grassland where you start with baboons and lions and tigers and gazelles and literally climb 19,000 feet. Everest is just one little point of a range that goes forever. I mean, from eye to eye when you're at 30,000 feet. And okay, so one trail has a bunch of oxygen bottles. I mean, so two questions there. Is it unethical for a guy like me to have a goal that someday I want to go drop a lot of money and hire a bunch of Sherpas and go to the top of Everest? Or is that an unethical goal or ambition?
No, not at all. I mean, not at all. I mean, what you're doing is you're giving them jobs, you're giving them means to live, and these guys are doing really well. But what is the problem here? I mean, the twist here is the companies that, let's say, Howard wants to go to Everest, and you contact a company charges $100,000 for that. And the guy who carries your thing on his back actually gets $10 a day, or like let's say, $10 a day. So that's where it's wrong. It's not you are doing something wrong. It's those companies. So in selecting that, just finding out, hey, how much is my porter getting, would be a good idea. It's not ethical. If you guys don't come here, then what will the Sherpas do?
Well, that's funny. You just interchanged porter and Sherpa in the same conversation, because when you go around the whole world, they're porters, but when you go to Everest, they're Sherpas, because that's actually the most common last name for the people that live in that village.
Exactly, and they are the very strong, very amazing guys. Some friends also there, and there's some dentists also who've actually been the highest point. We have a clinic as well. He's a very good friend of mine, and so Sherpa is a clan. It's a kind of a clan in Nepal who have been known for they're used to living in that kind of altitude, and for them, I mean, climbing these mountains is just like running through the backyard kind of thing. And they have promoted that place. They have created jobs with that and all that. It's great. But the only thing is, there are some companies which suck on their behalf and hardly give these guys anything, and that's where it's wrong. I mean, the wealth distribution, I mean, whatever comes in has to be distributed well with the guy who actually carries on his back as well. So that's where the ethical part comes in. And about the litter, well, yeah, now the rule is like whatever, a lot of them are doing. I've got a few friends who I just actually placed an implant 2-3 days ago on a mountaineer. She's climbed almost 7 mountains. She's German, but she's climbed around 7 mountains all around the world, highest, and she's done Everest a couple of times. And she carries her own waste, whatever she uses, she carries it back. And that's what has to be promoted. It's about monitoring it. It's not about, well, of course, poop remains a poop there. So poop you cannot carry back, I guess. I mean, in those so many days. But if there is some management, and there are so many companies, the government takes so much money on these permission granted for climbing the Everest, almost $50,000 or so. And well, they should be doing something from that money too. I mean, cleaning up. You can't expect a trekker to carry his poop back. So litter, I don't see is a big issue, and it's very much manageable. So it's a media hype at a lot of times. As I said, when the earthquake shook, the picture that was shown to you was disastrous and Kathmandu is gone. But in reality, it's not. So it's similar. It's a media hype. Media gets a picture and doesn't do much research and just puts in on your plate because it's sellable. I guess that's the thing.
I'm going to ask you. I only got you for 5 more minutes. By the way, it's 11:30 in the morning here on a Wednesday. What time is it in Kathmandu?
Oh well, it's 12:10 in the night.
12:10 in the night. I want to ask you
Yeah.
this question. The interesting thing is, in America, the average divorce, 50% of average marriage fail. So half the marriages fail. But in America, the highest success rate is if a doctor, whether it be a dentist, a physician, or a lawyer, marries another dentist or physician or lawyer. Their divorce rate is 9%. And you're a dentist, and you married a dentist. And the only but when you go to like India, where they have arranged marriages, they have a 9% divorce rate. And when I was over there, a lot of Indians were telling me they said they look at Americans as kind of really different because we have what they call love marriages, where you little young kids in heat go out and make irrational emotional decisions, and half their marriages fall. And they would rather have parents help you in your selection. And when they help you with the selection, 90% of the time it works. And they called their marriages American marriages, love marriages, Indian marriages, arranged marriages. What is it like in Kathmandu? Is it more love marriages? Is it more arranged marriages? And you're married to a dentist. Do you think you've been married to her? You're not divorced, correct?
Yeah, not
Yeah.
yet.
So do you think a big part of that is because you both are highly educated dentists, and that's why you intellectually can get through your problem? Or just comment on that. What's it like being married to a dentist? You guys work together in the same office?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
I
right.
adore your wife. She's just a lovely woman. But what are your thoughts on that? Comparing India, versus the United States, love marriages, nuclear family, etc.
Yeah, well, I mean, marriages in these days, India or Nepal, love marriages, and here it's more of arranged as well. A lot of marriages happen arranged, but now the majority, I mean, young people are getting wiser, and they're selecting their own partners. Sometimes it works great, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, arranged marriages seem to work better because they are forced to make it work better, and that's what I've seen in the because there's too much sacrifice in them. Even though it's not working out, they'll try to please the family because the family have united. So there's a lot of struggle, but they do try to make it up.
Now,
Uh,
was your marriage arranged, or was yours a love marriage?
Love
Or is,
marriage, yeah, yeah,
yours was love marriage?
yeah.
I hope that
So
wasn't. I hope that wasn't rude of asking.
no, not at all. Well, but at the same time, I mean, love marriage, like what you're getting into. So actually, it tends to work quite well here. And as you asking, like same profession marriage, I see. I mean, there are two sides of that. I think it's great because you carry the same burden, you understand each other's problem well, but at the same time, you're talking the same boring dentistry, I mean, over the dinner table all the time, which is good again. I mean, it enlightens you in many ways, but and in the office, if you're working in the same office, you're just meeting the same person 24/7, and that could be a little unhealthy. But overall, to do a service industry, understanding each other, I think it's great. For me, it's been great. Yeah, I mean, I've been blessed with that,
Well,
and
I think I
grateful.
love data. I love statistics because numbers and math are kind of like gravity. They can force you to, you can't deny gravity. But I think the one thing, when you look at the 50 states divorce rate and line up their divorce rate, it correlates with, age of marriage. So the highest divorce rate would be Oklahoma, where they're the youngest when they get married, and the lowest divorce rate is Connecticut, where they're the oldest. So I think one advantage of why dentists, physicians, lawyers, when they marry each other, have such a low divorce rate is because they were usually 24, 25 when they got married. They weren't 16 years old. They weren't in Oklahoma City, dating, marrying a 16-year-old. So I think a big part of that can be explained just by, why don't you just wait till you're 25 to get married? When is the average? What percent of the marriages in Nepal are arranged, and what is the average age of an arranged marriage?
I would say arranged marriage will be at least, I don't know. I mean, there is no data as such, actually.
Right.
Usually what's happening nowadays is the family likes a girl and a boy, and they just try to make them meet each other, and few days they just go dating and all that. If they like everything, and then they get married. So it's like a half arranged, half love arranged kind of hybrid, let's say, just like hybrid composites. So that's
Right.
that's yeah, that's where it's going. But I don't have the data on that. But if you look at it, uh, the the divorce rate on arranged marriage seems to be much lesser because of the social pressure than the love marriage. So I
That's an
I'm not an expert
yeah,
on this
but
issue.
that's interesting where you feel that there's more pressure to stay together in arranged
Yeah,
marriage. Well,
true.
Neil, I am out of time. That is our hour, and I just want to tell you seriously, dude. I think you're one of the coolest guys I've ever met. I think yeah, you're just amazing.
My
You're so
pleasure.
intellectual. You're the only person I know who on Facebook you don't post what you're eating for dinner. It's always a profound thought. All every time you post on Dental Town I mean on Dental Town or Facebook, you always take my mind out for a run, and your face is just always smiling. The karma you exude, you should be the spokesperson for Buddhism and Nepal and dentistry. But thank you for an hour of your time. I'm sorry I kept you up till in the middle of the night.
No, it's a pleasure, Howard. I mean, it's a privilege. I mean, it's a I mean, to be talking to you. I mean, after all these years, and guess what? Where did I meet you? I mean, if you remember, it was Twitter. We met on Twitter, and that's how everything happened. And amazing, and today we're here, and I'm so much, thank you for all the concerns. And you've been such a when you came in here and gave all that lecture. And he came in all free, gave all that. And I see the changes that's happening right now in Nepalese. Whenever a new dentist is opening a clinic and all that, he's putting your mantra in there. I can see that happening. That your first thing was location, the ground floor. These things I see it working. And that actually helped a lot of dentists save their practices in earthquake because ground floors were pretty much okay. So I thank you from the entire Nepalese dental community as well as Nepal. Thank you very much, and you're now the Buddha, you know.
Well, namaste, buddy. Namaste.
Namaste,
Have a
namaste.
great day. Thank you.
Thank you, pleasure.